My wife suddenly ended our relationship to find clarity after a coworker swept her off her feet. I begged her to choose us, saying, "We have a history." But she's still texting him daily while I fight to keep our family intact. Will my love be enough to save us? A significant vent is incoming, sort of. I bounce around too. I am a 28-year-old male, my wife is a 28-year-old female, and her affair partner is a 23-year-old male. I am at a loss for words and emotions. I have known my wife since high school and we have been together for a total of 12 years, approaching 3 years of marriage. We have a 2-year-old daughter. Our families get along exceptionally well, siblings and parents, and all our friends are mutual. We have a great support system around us. Over the years, I know I have disappointed her in certain areas, particularly with partying during college and afterward, often prioritizing myself in situations. I believed we had resolved those issues, but she is now reflecting on those events and attempting to make a decision about our relationship. We have a wonderful history, I feel deeply connected to her, and I know she is my person as I am hers. After our daughter was born, she struggled with postpartum issues and disliked her job. I encouraged her to find a new position in her field because she was only at her current job temporarily, which suited our parents' availability to watch our daughter throughout the week. She quickly found a new job that she loved, and it reignited her sense of potential. She was excited and began purchasing new clothes and dressing up for her workdays. This made me incredibly proud, and I was delighted to see her finding a new rhythm and a comfortable situation. She started the new job in September and met another man through her work. I have been told that their expressions of feelings for one another were not verbalized until December. The day of revelation for me was January 12th, when she sat me down with a list of past grievances she was holding onto. She described me as immature, stated that she could not connect with me emotionally or intellectually, and expressed that we were on different wavelengths. We had a large New Year's party and her affair partner was present. I met him, thanked him for being a helpful coworker and friend to my wife as she spoke highly of him. I shook his hand and everything. In retrospect, I realized they were closely together all night, which frustrates me. Since that day of revelation, I have broken down, made a fool of myself, and felt insecure. I immediately asked if we could go to couples therapy and she agreed. We have been attending every 10 days since. I have asked multiple times for her to cut contact with him, but she has expressed a desire not to. I discovered through snooping that she went out of town for a work event, where as far as I know he was not present, but he drove her to and from the airport after I had offered to do so. They share a Spotify playlist, send each other Snapchat and TikTok messages daily, and she has notes on her phone outlining all the reasons she likes him just as he does about her. She would vent to him about me, and of course he was very supportive and available for her. They watched television shows and movies together when I was busy, exchanged Christmas and Valentine's gifts, and he held her for 16 minutes in her car while she cried about our situation at work one day. I am deeply hurt that she continued doing this amid my ongoing pain. As far as I know, they have not kissed or had sexual relations yet. I am attempting to empathize with her as I acknowledge that I have also hurt her in the past regarding the issues she reflects on, so I have been trying to be patient. However, my insecurities have arisen. I would find notes from him or check her phone and discover things, then she changed her phone password and I was left feeling helpless. I continually brought up these issues, seeking explanations and validation, which became exhausting. This turmoil continued through my birthday. The day before my birthday, we decided to separate March 2. It was an awful birthday. The agreement was for no contact with her affair partner and I would give her space so she could take the time to decide. However, I did not comply with the no contact rule and she maintained contact with him. So the separation was challenging for both of us. I genuinely attempted to work on myself by going to the gym, reading marriage books. Everything I did was aimed at hoping she would wake up one day and realize, "That was foolish, I choose you," and we could start our marriage anew. I struggle to sleep, and when I do, I have vivid dreams about them. I feel so physically uncomfortable, it is absurd. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, I finally felt like I reached my limit. I have been unable to trust her in any capacity, and I decided to tell her during our next therapy session that I need a decision. I outlined my boundaries for her at work should she remain in her job, which I would prefer she leave, but I was willing to accept it if she agreed to certain accommodations in her workplace situation. They do not always work the same shifts. However, she has another location she could move to or could relocate her office. I felt that I was ready to assert myself firmly. The day before therapy, we planned to go out for dinner and a movie. I got home from work before her, got ready, and planned to enjoy the evening despite everything. I missed her. When she came home, she was sobbing and informed me that she had just ended things with her affair partner, not to choose us, but for her own clarity. She did not agree to any of my proposed boundaries, so I chose to place my faith in our relationship once more, trusting her to honor that breakup, even though it was painful. I recognized that she would eventually grieve him, but witnessing her sadness over someone else is something I hope no spouse has to endure. I sensed that she regretted the decision, but I still considered it a small victory. We opted to continue the separation and genuinely try this time. I believed she would cease reaching out to him, so I agreed to remain separated, and she also requested to disable her location tracking, which I had been monitoring closely and which was probably best for me anyway, and focus on ourselves. This was on April 4. We attempted to spend time together and had a good week during the first week after the initial separation, but I noticed she was still off and deeply saddened about losing her affair partner. We engaged in several tough conversations about our relationship during this time, and essentially, she decided to divorce twice without explicitly saying so. Yesterday was Easter, and it was challenging for me to maintain my composure. My intuition told me something was wrong, so I inquired whether she had been in contact with her affair partner, and she admitted she had spoken to him at work. I shrugged it off and tried to enjoy the day. On the way to Easter, I checked her phone log and saw his name, leading me to realize she had lied to me again. I confronted her, and she confessed that she had spoken to him daily since April 13, meaning she lasted only 9 days without contact. She is also aware that it is wrong, which makes the situation even more painful. Our conversation yesterday began with her declaring that she had decided to end our marriage before I discovered the phone calls, and I essentially begged and presented my case about how much I love her, our shared history, the impact this will have on our daughter, how I cannot envision her affair partner in our daughter's life, although I am aware that I ultimately have no control over that, and how I cannot imagine life without her. I told her I understand what she needs from me now, and she stated that she believes I can provide that for her. She is just so upset that I did not come to this realization sooner. I know she loves me and she acknowledges our history. She struggles to make a decision. I have never heard her affirmatively say she chooses us. However, I feel that I fully expressed my feelings yesterday without overreacting to her ongoing dishonesty. Our conversation concluded without a decision, but she still wants to attend therapy at the end of the week, which indicates that I must have said something that resonated with her. I believe I have a slim chance left to demonstrate that we can overcome this. She is still here, and that means something to me. I am just so saddened by the possibility of divorce because of his influence. I would be much better off if I knew she had definitively ended things with him, and if we could genuinely make an effort together. If we fail, then at least we can say we tried. However, with her resuming contact with him that quickly, I fear it will devastate me. I wish she could see him through my eyes. She mentions that they laugh together constantly. He listens to her, and while she has not explicitly stated it, I sense she has developed feelings for him through her actions, which disregard me and her inability to commit to the breakup. She only sees an amazing person when she looks at him. Her friends do not approve of him, nor do mine. I see a manipulative individual, someone who is young, having never been in a relationship, desperate for attention, living with his parents, and willing to destroy someone else's life for his benefit. My wife is stunning and has admitted to finding me more attractive than him. The very act of pursuing a married woman is profoundly wrong to me. No man should do that, let alone be around my daughter. He claims to be a godly man, yet he is compromising his morals through this behavior. He is just a piece of work, and trust me, I have been tempted to confront him physically on 2 separate occasions. I am not a violent person, but my daughter motivates me now, and I will never jeopardize our relationship for my own emotional struggles. I know everyone will likely advise me to leave her, but I do not want to. I physically cannot fathom it. I cannot envision life without her. It has been me and her for half of my life. We have experienced life together: high school, college, travel, living in different states, and she was my first and I was hers. It is also incredibly difficult because I cannot shake the images of them being intimate from my mind. I am certain that will happen if she chooses him, if it has not already occurred, and we have not been intimate since November. I just miss her and find it hard to comprehend this new version of her. She has always been the jealous type, asking me about dreams she has had in which I was unfaithful. For your information, I have never cheated. I simply wanted to vent here and see if others have experienced something similar where all hope seemed lost, yet somehow it worked out. I apologize to those who have to read this and reflect on their own stories. This situation is painful. Story 2. My roommate ended our friendship through an email. I feel that we are growing and moving in different directions. After years of support, she dismissed my feelings and blamed my dog for our issues. Heartbroken, I never expected a friend would walk away so easily. What now? I'm not sure how to begin this. I am emotionally and physically exhausted from this entire situation. A 24-year-old female, have been living with my roommate, whom I will refer to as B, a 22-year-old female, for almost 2 years. We met during our final year of college when we were in the same major and shared many classes. Our mutual interests quickly forged a strong friendship. Eventually, after graduating, we chose to move in together. I truly believed there was a significant connection between us. We bonded rapidly and I felt safe and supported by her. She opened up about her challenging relationship with her family, particularly her mother, whom she often characterized as manipulative or codependent. I felt that we were becoming closer as friends. A few months after moving in together, she adopted a 4-year-old Shih Tzu named Pebbles from a local shelter. 2 months later, I acquired a 9-week-old miniature golden doodle named Oakley. I had been determined to get a dog for years and had planned on bringing one home long before she decided to adopt her dog. I assumed we were aligned on everything and spent an entire month away from work training and bonding with my dog, ensuring he would fit seamlessly into our dynamic. About a year into our cohabitation, I began to notice some concerning signs. She rarely took initiative, showed appreciation, or invested in our friendship. Whenever there was tension, I was the one who had to initiate communication, smooth things over, or apologize, even when I had done nothing wrong. If I expressed something that was bothering me, she would react defensively, act cold, or make passive-aggressive remarks. She would even manipulate the situation so that I felt guilty for bringing it up. On the rare occasions when she hurt my feelings, she would not take responsibility unless I explicitly pointed it out, and even then her apologies felt insincere. Her behavior was emotionally immature. Instead of communicating like an adult, she would sulk or avoid me. When I shared my struggles, she would redirect the conversation back to herself or appear annoyed. Occasionally, B would make jokes at my expense or criticize me in a way that felt excessively pointed, then claim she was just joking when I addressed it. After writing this all down, I am surprised it took me so long to realize how toxic she is. Tension has built up between us over the past few months and I am unsure about the origin. Then about 2 weeks ago, everything escalated from bad to worse. We have been dealing with a roach infestation in our apartment that has persisted for months. That particular day, we spent hours on the phone with the management trying to resolve the latest treatment issue. We were both worn out. I sensed she was in a negative mood, so I allowed her space. She went across the street and returned with some sushi for her dinner. She sat down on the couch and my dog, being curious, jumped up to investigate what she had. It's important to note that B is the one who frequently gives both dogs treats. She feeds them various human foods, causing them to beg from her. She even shares food from her plate while sitting on the couch. I had my back to them when I heard some commotion. I turned around and saw her shoving my dog in the face, pushing him to the floor. I said hey, and began walking over to remove my dog from the situation. She jumped up, huffed, and stormed into her bedroom, slamming the door. I did not hear from her for the remainder of the night. This resulted in her giving me the silent treatment for the following week. During that week of silence, I made the decision to finally confront her about how she had treated me. I have autism, so conflict resolution is not my strong point. I determined that the best way for me to approach this issue would be to write her a letter. The letter was quite lengthy, about a page, so I will summarize its contents. In the letter, I expressed how I felt the dynamic between us had become emotionally challenging, leaving me feeling anxious, hurt, and as if I were constantly walking on eggshells in my own home. I acknowledged her bluntness, which I usually appreciate, but explained how it could sometimes feel unnecessarily harsh and isolating. I reflected on my tendency to avoid conflict and how I have allowed things to slide at the cost of my own well-being, and I committed to working on that. I also mentioned how important my dog is to me as a source of emotional support and how it hurts when he becomes a source of tension. I indicated that I understand having 2 dogs in the apartment is a significant responsibility and assured her that I would work harder to maintain his training. My dog is not problematic. He is simply a young dog with a lot of energy. This is my first time owning a dog, so I am still learning the ropes. I understand that both of our dogs have quirks that might irritate each other. However, it seems she has the expectation that my young puppy should be flawless and never make mistakes. I concluded the letter by stating that I was attempting to communicate my feelings honestly, not to instigate an argument, and that because I value our friendship, I wanted to work towards a more respectful, balanced, and supportive relationship. I spent several hours over 2 days drafting, writing, rewriting, and editing this letter, striving to be respectful while also kindly expressing my feelings. Once I felt I had articulated myself appropriately, I planned to give her the letter. Early Friday morning, I prepared for work, and as I was leaving, I placed the letter on her side of the table. I assumed she had read the letter because a few hours later, I received a text that read, "I will be writing you an email since you have expressed that written communication is best for you to process things." I was uncertain how to interpret her tone, but I felt hopeful that this would lead to a positive conversation. However, I was unprepared for what followed. That evening, I returned home from work to find an empty apartment. B, her dog, and the dog crate were gone. I was unsure of her whereabouts but assumed she was staying with a friend for some space, which I considered valid. Later that evening, I received her email, which stated, "Thank you for expressing your thoughts and concerns. I appreciate your honesty. I understand the dog is important for your emotional well-being. However, his behavior affects me emotionally and financially. For instance, when he has taken my food from the kitchen table or attempted to eat from my plate. I have communicated my expectations regarding our living situation several times throughout the year, and you have acknowledged these expectations. Yet after a few weeks you cease to follow them, which frustrates me. I feel that we are growing and moving in different directions in life. Therefore, I do not believe that living together will be beneficial for either of us. I understand if this makes you uncomfortable, and if you prefer, we can break the lease. I am willing to accommodate this and live with my mother until I find a new living situation. Immediately, I experienced a whirlwind of emotions, ranging from anger to sadness. I had never mentioned anything about breaking the lease or ending our living arrangement. All I desired was a simple conversation to address the issues I believed were damaging our relationship, and she could not even extend the courtesy of an apology for her actions. I called my sister, and she came over to stay with me for an hour while I cried and vented my feelings. I was truly heartbroken. This was someone I thought would be a lifetime friend, someone I had confided in and shared my heart with. Her response felt like a dissolution of our friendship, filled with evasive language and deflection. Not only did she avoid taking real responsibility, but she framed the issue around my dog, neglecting to recognize that the problem was more than just last week's incident. It was about our friendship unraveling. That night, I went to bed feeling utterly exhausted. Saturday morning, I woke up and went to work. Upon returning home, I decided to take my dog for a walk to help him release some energy so he would not cause trouble. I also wanted to spend time in nature to process everything. Once I arrived at the park, I received a demanding text from her that said, "We need to have a conversation tonight when you return from your walk." This triggered all of my initial emotions to resurface. Why did she think she had the right to demand a conversation now that she felt something needed to be discussed? I responded with, "Based on your limited response to my letter, which focused on the dog and your standards and expectations, I am unclear on what you expect to discuss. I am hurt and angry about how you have handled this. I cannot say when I will be home, but I will let you know when I am ready to talk, as I am not prepared for a discussion tonight." I went to my parents' house and did not return until late that night after B had already gone to bed. After coming home on Sunday, she hung up a curtain to separate her room and bathroom from the main living area. I am unsure if this is customary behavior or simply a petty gesture. It is now Tuesday as I write this, and the events of the past few days feel like they have spanned months. My family and some close friends believe that she is exceedingly toxic and even emotionally manipulative. I no longer know what to think. I feel unable to trust my own thoughts or my previous understanding of the situation. I am also uncertain about how to proceed from here. I am frustrated that she has consistently twisted everything to be about my faults and my dog's behavior instead of acknowledging the real emotional pain she has caused me. Additionally, I am heartbroken that someone I believe to be a true friend could discard me so easily. Where do I go from here? Summary: I, a 24-year-old female, have lived with my roommate B, a 22-year-old female, for nearly 2 years. We were close friends, but her behavior became distant, passive-aggressive, and dismissive. After a recent incident, I wrote her a letter explaining how I felt hurt and wanted to improve our relationship. She responded with an emotionally detached email suggesting we no longer live together, effectively ending our friendship. I am heartbroken and confused. What should I do next? Story 3. After 11 years, my wife turned our fiery passion into a cold war of frustration. "I don't know what to say," she kept repeating while I yearned for the intimacy we lost. "Now I crave passionate encounters outside our marriage. Do it with someone else," she even suggested. Am I the problem? I will be turning 37 this June, and my wife turned 35 this year. We have been married for 9 years now, following a 2-year courtship, resulting in a total of 11 years together. My wife is the only woman I have ever dated, and I fell head over heels in love with her. I had no sexual experience prior to my marriage, nor did my wife. However, she had an ex-boyfriend, and their relationship lasted for 5 years before I entered the picture. As newlyweds, everything was exciting and joyful. We were having sexual relations regularly, and she experienced orgasms that left her entire body shaking, especially her thighs. I am a very passionate individual, and during intimate moments, I tend to go where the moment leads me rather than follow a strict guideline. Gradually, monotony set in, along with our in-laws and their expectations and opinions. This caused my wife to take a back seat when it came to sex. When we did engage in sexual activity, it felt as if I was with a starfish lying there in bed. She gained a bit of weight after our marriage, which negatively impacted her body image, leading her to lose interest in sex. Even though I got her a gym membership, it became apparent to me that I found her attractive only because I wanted to have sex, leading her to believe that no man would find her appealing due to her appearance. Months went by in this manner, and any sexual encounters we had were either pity sex from her side or frustrated encounters from my side. I advised her to post a picture of herself without showing her face, asking for a general opinion since my opinion did not seem to carry much weight. She encouraged me to do it and see what the responses would be. After creating and posting a faceless picture along with a detailed message stating, "My wife does not find herself attractive and believes that no man would be interested in having sex with her. I, as her husband, only find her attractive for the sole purpose of having sex with her." We received many positive replies, along with some crude comments. Among those responses was a lovely Indian-Canadian couple who expressed a desire to meet us, with the lady wanting to speak to my wife to address her concerns about her body image. My wife blushed and was curious to hear what they had to say. However, by the time I returned from work that evening, my wife confronted me and expressed her disgust for having posted her picture. She went on to mention that she enjoyed sex and oral sex with her ex-boyfriend at his hostel, and that she never enjoyed it with me, which shocked me because she had told me that she had never done anything beyond kissing with him. She even threatened to leave the marriage and informed a few close married couples in our friend group of my actions, resulting in me being shamed and ridiculed by both my wife and friends for a long time. Things mellowed down after a year when she became pregnant. I took on the responsibility of caring for her during the pregnancy and was very hands-on with both her needs and our child's care after delivery. The postpartum phase lasted almost a year, during which my wife preferred the child to sleep between us and refused to have the baby sleep in the crib. From this point on, sexual encounters became rare, and my wife found it increasingly difficult to orgasm, regardless of what we attempted as a couple or what she tried on her own, in stark contrast to her body-shaking orgasms in the early years of our marriage. From here on, it became a frustrating situation for me, as I yearned for intimacy while my wife felt that I was continually nagging her for sex. I embarked on a journey of reading numerous articles and engaging in lengthy discussions with my wife about the need and importance of sexual intimacy in a marriage, which often led to arguments. I even asked her if it was me she was not interested in or if she had lost interest in sex altogether, but I received no clear answer other than, "I don't know what to say." She suggested that I could engage in sexual activities with someone else, stating that she was okay with it, but I did not pursue this option. However, during my exploration of online reading, I came across several articles about reigniting the spark through date nights, trying something new, adding a person to the mix, and even swinging. My wife is a firm believer in monogamy, as was I until I learned about swinging and its potential benefits for improving both sexual and overall relationships between spouses. Swinging piqued my interest, and I researched it for over a year, delving into its more challenging aspects that go beyond just sex with other partners. I liked the idea of swinging because I would prefer to engage with individuals who genuinely want to have sex with me instead of feeling like I am forcing someone into it. One important lesson I learned the hard way is that a person, man or woman, who desires sex becomes more sexual when they experience long periods without it, as masturbation becomes insufficient to satisfy those needs. On the other hand, a man or woman who is not into sex tends to become less sexual when they go without it for a long time, and they cannot be coerced into enjoying sexual activities. Things could have turned around when my wife agreed to create a swinging profile and post tasteful pictures of ourselves on it. We even met a couple in person and had a genuinely nice, non-sexual conversation. We maintained regular communication with them, and my wife was able to discuss many of her concerns about the possibility of being with another man and watching her husband be with another woman. Unfortunately, this phase was short-lived, as my wife felt that the ultimate goal would be to engage sexually with another person or to witness my sexual encounters with another woman, causing her to backtrack. Consequently, the idea of swinging has been set aside, though my wife knows that I find the concept intriguing. However, she does not fully understand what the reality of that situation would entail. I have grown increasingly desiring to experiment sexually with my wife and others, while my wife has become more resistant to both sex and trying anything new with me or anyone else. Silence often fills the space between us, and our lack of intimacy leads to mood swings, where even minor annoyances can escalate my irritation, which in turn irritates my wife. I do not like the idea of forcing myself on my wife. I want to feel desired for the person I am, rather than just for what I can provide. I don't want it to feel like a mere obligation to provide her with sex occasionally in order to maintain harmony in our relationship. Last year, we even considered divorce as things were spiraling out of control due to her anger and irritation, as well as my own reaching an all-time high. We took a break from one another for a few months, and upon reconvening, my wife attempted to initiate sex, while I felt completely withdrawn. My wife was not open to my passion, nor was she willing to explore anything new, while simultaneously complaining that I was not providing her with orgasms. I found myself feeling like I had to jump through hoops during lengthy foreplay, as it became solely my responsibility to stimulate her and ensure she was aroused. Unfortunately, she mentioned that she does not feel anything inside her vagina, once she becomes sufficiently aroused. These confusing dynamics led me to lose my own sexual desire towards her, as I felt reluctant to approach her while she was unhappy with the fact that I was turning her down, as if declining sex were only a woman's prerogative. Not to mention, I have been labeled a sick pervert and belittled for having greater sexual needs. People with a strong sexual passion often express that same passion in their love and their anger, but this is seldom acknowledged. Ultimately, I would love to have passionate sex with someone who genuinely wants to engage in sexual activities with me. However, I find it challenging to desire that with my wife, and I resort to self-pleasure to manage my urges, though this is not enough to satisfy me. Part of me views my wife as an incredible, attractive woman who could be a sexual goddess if she would allow herself to embrace that potential. I am caught in a struggle between both facets of my reality. Story 4. I moved across the world for love, only to discover my husband harbored secrets that shattered my trust. Everything you thought was real wasn't, I think, as I mourn my father's absence and my mom's cancer diagnosis. Can love truly heal such deep pain? I need to write, and I will share it with you, stranger. I will attempt to express my story and my thoughts in words for you to let me know if everything will be fine, if I am merely experiencing a difficult period, or simply what I have always believed to be true. Depression never truly disappears. It continuously returns. I lost my father when I was a teenager. It was devastating. However, it was not the only or even the first significant tragedy or hardship in my life. In fact, I often minimize it and remind myself, so what, we all die. You are not the only one who endures this kind of pain. In reality, many individuals have it worse. They lose loved ones at a younger age or in more horrific ways than brain cancer or comas. So what if your parents fought constantly since you were a baby, passing you back and forth at the police station every weekend when you were 2? Or if you witnessed things you should not have, many others have faced greater challenges and they do not react like you do. So what if your wishes were never fulfilled but were instead met with slaps, kicks, hits, and sharp objects held against you? He was merely experiencing the side effects of medications, surgery, and radiation. He was not that evil, was he? Even if he was, there are worse fathers out there. But their children remain strong. You should be like them. Stop behaving like a loser, stop sounding like a victim. What you endured is insignificant. I fell in love online, specifically through Reddit. We met in person after about 2 years of chatting and having lengthy conversations. A year and a half ago, I moved out of my country to close the distance and marry the love of my life. I have always had suspicions, doubts, negative thoughts, and fears, but I labeled myself insecure because that is the term people used online to describe individuals like me. And I was insecure about my appearance, my body, my skin, my voice, me. So I accepted their views. I thought I was simply too sensitive because, well, I am inadequate as a person. Until most of my fears and worse turned out to be true. That was more than a year ago, and I am still haunted by what he did to me, how he deceived me, what he concealed from me, and more. Will the pain ever cease? I still married him for so many reasons that I cannot even enumerate. Yes, he concealed things until I uncovered the truth and found all the hidden secrets. Yes, he may have told a few lies, he broke my heart, but after we met in person, actually even before that, he ceased those behaviors. He kept the secrets, yes, but at a certain point he had committed himself to change. I respected that. After a few of those long, sleepless nights with him, after nearly a month of sleeplessness on my own, pondering how to tell him that I knew everything, I remained, because I love him, and he loves me. He feels ashamed and sorry for all that he did. I struggle every day to forget, to forgive, to heal. To be fair, he is doing everything he can to assist me. At this point, it is actually me who is causing him pain with my foolish jokes, the coping kind that I throw at him, my passive aggressiveness, and my rage when we discuss our relationship. I scream, I cry, I call him names I never wish to address the man I love because I am still wounded, and in today's world it feels so isolating. Nobody understands, let alone cares. I am just an insecure and narrow-minded girl. Since moving here, I feel lonelier than ever. He sacrificed his friendships to spend all his time with me because he realized that I did not trust him with his friends. It devastated me to be alone in a house in a foreign country after realizing that the person I left everything for was not precisely who I thought he was. But he sacrificed this and more to make me happy again, to regain my trust, to mend my broken heart. I appreciate him. We are going to celebrate our wedding this summer. The year 2025 began roughly for us. In January, I lost my job, a position that had given me confidence and financial independence. I cherished that sense of power, but I lost it. My mother, who lived with us, moved to a refugee camp because she needed to be on her own and seek independence. I understood after 8 months of living together. She left on a Saturday. On Monday, she informed me she would be hospitalized in a psychiatric facility. Before she departed, she stated that when she expressed her desire to either live in the camp or return to our country, she did not mean to go there to live. So, what was the opposite of the word living again? She was released after 23 weeks, and a month later, she revealed that she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. I am exhausted. Please, God, please tell me it will be all right. I cannot lose her. I feel isolated. Each time we gather with my husband's family, after 3 to 4 hours, I begin to feel increasingly miserable. Do not misinterpret me, they are wonderful, especially his parents. They are amazing. And perhaps that is why it hurts. When my father-in-law gifted his daughter, my sister-in-law, the latest iPhone, I remembered how my father destroyed mine, smashed it against the wall behind me, picked it up, and smashed it repeatedly until I was left with no phone. The phone I purchased with the money I saved by not eating at school. I abstained from eating at school for another year to save for a new one because my father refused to buy me another, claiming it was my fault he had to break it. On the same day, he bought himself a phone that cost 6 times more. Yesterday, it struck me that my father will never witness my pregnancy, never play with my children, never attend my wedding, because he is dead. I realized this as I looked at my father-in-law, whom I cherish like my own father, but who will never regard me with the same affection as his own daughter. We cannot even communicate effectively. I still do not speak the language fluently. I cried for hours when we returned home. My husband picked me up from the couch and took me to bed. I calmed down somewhat, but another thought emerged and I cried harder. It became hard to breathe, or perhaps I was unwilling to breathe. He panicked and asked if he should call an ambulance. I shook my head no. He inquired what was wrong. I simply shook my head again. I could not speak. Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis? That is what it felt like, helplessness. When I could finally articulate something, I said, I am tired. Then he stated he would never visit his parents again, which, as you can imagine, made me cry even more. Why? Because I love his family. Things occur that hurt directly or indirectly, intentionally or not, but they are all good individuals. I mourned what he said and his misguided attempt to fix my pain. When he asked, why do you only focus on the negatives? You should also acknowledge the good things. My heart broke. It is such a cliched thing to hear when you are depressed, right? Yet it hurt so deeply. I left the bed after a few minutes of shock, his words resonating in my mind. I informed him I would sleep on the couch because I did not want to disturb him with my crying. After all, he had to wake up at 5 a.m. for work. I wept while contemplating my life and trying to remember the good times. There were not many, even the precious moments were tinged with bitterness. My golden age was my husband. He was my hope, my remedy, until I discovered things about him. And so, even that was not perfect, although I believed it was for a long while. I am weary, strangers.